those, test. I can use the other one if needed. Test. Oh, hello. Hi, everybody. For those of you who haven't actually been on the stage, this lighting is pretty trippy. So when the lights go down, it's a whole new vibe in here. So glad to have you all here with us today as we talk a little bit about the young person's experience and what we're doing with research. I'm going to move around a little bit just because I don't do well behind podiums. But we wanted to share a little bit about HDYO in general, as well as what we're working on to support young people, why we do what we do, and some research initiatives that we have, and then turn it over to some young people to share their perspectives. I love it when we get to have these open dialogues about what we feel like this community needs, but there's nothing better than having young people here to be able to share their experiences directly. So I wanted to start off by talking about what the young person's journey is like, because I think that it's really important to understand that there are so many nuances when you're supporting this community because there are outside factors, and then it all just depends on when they're first going through these many different milestones that HD brings. So when you think about anybody as you're going through these different developmental stages, you start off with adolescence. Those are the things when you're having some major physical changes, you're having brain development, you're learning some things like sharing, who your family is, what safety means. Then you move into everybody's fun stage of the teen years. When you have hormones and anxiety, you're thinking about maybe some relationships, thinking about what some of those next steps might be. Then you're going into more independence, thinking about career choices and education, relationships, family planning. And at some time in this journey, you typically find out about Huntington's disease. At that point, your life starts to change. And as we go through, you're going to see the pressures that can add in on these many different milestones that you may be facing. You start to watch your parents or your family struggle with HD. You often become a young caregiver. You start to understand your own risk and mortality. And then everybody's asking, when should you get tested? If you can imagine that this experience is very different at age 5, then 15, then 25, then 35, because of those important milestones that you're facing. And so that is why it is extremely important that we have individualized care and support for young people because of how it affects the many different life stages. I think that it's easy to assume that because it's a generational disease that people find out about it when they're young, or at least know that something's going on, but that's not the case. Just in Houston last week, we had a family whose mom was 75, thought she had restless leg syndrome, got diagnosed with HD without knowing that it's in their family. Their son had a 2-year-old child with his wife, and they were coping with, what does this do to my life now? And we often hear those kinds of stories. So that's why this really is important to understand this full spectrum of what young people go through and face. And it breaks down to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Some of you may be familiar with this. What we're talking about when we talk about support is that base safety level. HD can cause a lot of different changes in families' life when you're thinking about financial needs. So you may have some of those concerns about your own safety at home. How are you going to make ends meet? What are you going to do for support and for care of that person who is impacted by Huntington's disease? And you can't get to those higher levels of transcendence and self-actualization unless you help build that foundation first. And that's really what I was trying to share this morning. I just had 5 minutes. So what we do is we build that support system from the bottom up, so then that way they're better prepared for their own journeys and they have these different needs met as they go through the many changes of HD. So when we're talking about support, specifically at HDYO, it really got started with our website because we wanted to have an international approach to have accessible and comprehensible information. So the website was the first big program that we built back in 2012. Since then, it's gone through a couple of reiterations, including adding a translation software that has dozens of languages that automatically translates the website This is through AI, so it's not perfect, but it actually allows us to get information faster than going through traditional translations. We've also started a brand new professionals page that is looking at how can we help communicate with you all on some information and ways of working with young people. Things about understanding a young person's journey, how can you use empathy and understanding, how and when do you have parent and guardian involvement, signals for professionals, and those signals could be traditional signals of a mental health crisis, but it could also be signals of how someone is saying, I'm ready for more, I'm ready to get involved, because that's a really important thing to encourage young people to do. And then also conversation starters, because it can get a little bit challenging to pull things out of young people based off of their age and their experiences. We have a lot of resources. Many of these are translated into different languages, and we want to keep translating. We have Speaking to Children, general about HDYO, what is HD, and then a new genetic testing checklist. So these are available online, but this is a scan that we have of an order form. If you'd like to have any of those, please let us know. We also have some available at our booth, and my luggage came last night, so we have a booth. Woo! And clothes. We're also in the process of finalizing our HDYO Strive network. Strive stands for Supporting and Training International Voices to Excel. And this will be a professional platform with a login. You'll have the ability to have to chat with each other about different issues or challenges or questions you may have. There's a file upload option too, so anybody who's a part of this can upload helpful resources to share. It's not just going to be HDYO resources. And then we'll also have the ability to have continuing education. So stay tuned for more information on that. Our main job internationally is to bring people into this community. Being this umbrella organization, we simply can't be the experts in every single local experience, insurance, needs that you see for care home facilities. So through our social media, we have friendly, happy faces, welcoming faces, true stories, information, in order for people to feel comfortable to take that first step. Young people oftentimes are following along at an arm's length with the safety behind a screen. So if they can follow our social media and feel that comfortability to reach out and say, I'm here, I want to talk, we schedule a meeting, we talk with them, and we get them connected based off of what we hear that they need. So when you see, Ashley's right there, and she was mortified when she saw this. When you see these faces, it's very intentional because we want to normalize this experience and let them know that there's hope, but then also friendly people here that they can reach out to. And this is really how we've built all of our different education programs and support programs. We have our HDU community stories where we share personal perspectives and journeys. We have our breaking down barriers where we look at the barriers of research. So things like, what is a biomarker? What is a lumbar puncture? These are real things that people don't understand. So how can we involve the community in an open discussion about that? Clinical trial updates and a casual conversation. Doing our research video series, our research video series where we take HD Buzz articles and break them down into about 3-minute long vignettes for people to get that information. So that's the antithesis of why we do all of this, is again to be able to provide that support at the safety behind a screen so then they can reach out whenever they need to and make that first brave step. We also have a lot of empowerment through our community-driven programs. For those of you who don't know, we hosted our first in-person Congress last March in 2023, I guess 2 Marches ago, in 2023 in Glasgow. We had 340 participants attend this international event. HDYO alone, because of the support of our donors and sponsors, brought 100 young people through our scholarship program. And we had countless organizations bring their own young people too. This is such an important event because many times in that space, this was their first event. It was about 40 to 45% of people's first event ever, and about the same amount of time that it was their first time traveling abroad. And they were able to take resources back home and be in just an auditorium like this, filled with people who just get it. And it was overwhelming in every sense of the word, good, bad, and ugly, but we all ended up feeling more supported, having more resources, and coming together in a new way. So this next one is going to be what I would consider as an American, just right down the road, in Prague, Czech Republic, March 14th, the 16th, in 2025. We have information at our booth, but if you're interested in participating or helping send young people or helping just promote, please let us know. We also, as I mentioned earlier this morning, just hosted our first camp since coming back from the pandemic. This is such an important program because we are allowed to do extreme one-on-one support in different groups, have some fun, and make these connections. So more information on what this looks like, as a lot of people are, we're still looking at what does post-pandemic life look like, and especially on a global scale. So we will be hosting more camps, but we're looking at future dates right now. And of course, we have our lovely ambassadors. If you're an ambassador, could you please stand and wave your hand? Stand, wave. You're all right here. Ambassadors, ambassadors, ambassadors. Give them a round of applause. We have one that was going to be on this panel, but he's got awarded a fellow. The fellowship here at EHDN, so he's at the luncheon, so that's pretty darn cool. But our ambassadors are there to support one another, and this program is really great because it allows people to ebb and flow as they come and go and want to participate. We have people who just join the WhatsApp chat to be able to meet others, ask questions, and then we have people who take a big leap forward and do our takeovers, do our top tips. But this is a fantastic program for young people, and we have over 100 now in about 26 different countries. We want more. We also have a partnership with EHA, IHA to have advisory boards called HD Community Ad Board. We are hosting a roundtable discussion on Sunday morning. And the reason that we're hosting this is because we oftentimes are asked the same questions from different industry partners or from different research partners. And so we thought, let's bring everybody together in one space to be able to break down some of these different conversations told through international voices with multiple relationships to HD. If you look at some of the data that was pulled 2015, 2016, 2017, a lot has happened since then. Advocacy in general is a very privileged conversation that tends to be highly westernized. So we want to be able to bring this international voice because we know as clinical trials develop, we're going to need those international folks to be knowledgeable, provide feedback, and participate in research. So that will be held at the Hilton at 8:30 to 12:30 on Sunday morning. You can learn more at hdcab.org. So let's break down a little bit more of the research, and I think this is a really important thing to know. We want to understand what we know and what we don't know. And what I mean by what we know is we have hunches, we have anecdotal data, we have stories, but we need to have big numbers to make big change happen. So we want to be able to check in to see how are we doing, but then also be able to use this data to advocate for the whole community and answer key questions. So some of these common questions that we get, I'm sure some of you have had these, is why don't young people go through genetic testing? What are the educational deficiencies in the community? Why aren't young people participating in research? And how can we get more young people involved? So we set out on this wonderful endeavor called the Research Survey Series. What's exciting about this is that it is a global study for anybody 18 and older impacted by Huntington's disease. We have partnered with Monash University in Australia to allow us to go through ethics. It is an IRB-approved study. We launched it officially in Congress in 2023, and we have a fantastic research committee that works tirelessly on this, as well as providing feedback from our ambassadors. Because if people aren't going to take this, if it's not accessible, there's no reason to do it this way. So our ambassadors provide a lot of input into this. So this whole program is IRB approved, and then each survey is an addendum to the whole project, which allows us to do some of these pretty quickly in comparison to if we were to do individual studies. Our first one launched in April of last year, and as you can imagine with any study, it takes a while to get the word out there. So we launched it in April 2023 with a little bit of a soft opening, and what we wanted to look at is understanding how the community is seeking resources and support. This is really important because as we're looking at how can we communicate education, new trial sites, anything along those lines, we need to understand what's important to them and how they're finding this information, especially as things have gone more and more online since the pandemic. This is preliminary data, and the reason it's preliminary is because we continue to add more and more languages. So we have 2 posters upstairs that go through this data, but I just want to highlight a few different things. So this one, all of this data was pulled in June. With this one, we had 426 respondents. And you can see the different regions represented, different connections to HD. Young people have a variety of different self-identifiers, and we want them to be able to showcase all of those. And also to be able to not be tied to those, because it can change overnight, sometimes unexpected, with the different life events that happen around HD. What resources do you use? And primarily, this has been, again, more of a westernized community because we started off in English and some of those languages. Right now, we have 11 languages on there, and we want more. So we continue to work with our advocates to be able to translate. We're working on Mandarin right now. We just met with the Indian Association. We want more languages because we want those voices to be heard, especially in those communities that don't have regular access to research. So some of the data looks like how often do you seek resources, where do you seek HD resources? You can see association websites and social media. Those are overwhelmingly the highest. And who runs the social media accounts that's providing information on research? Associations. So associations play a huge part and are an important partner when it comes to disseminating information. Then we have rate familiarity with different topics about research. We have information about types of information and mediums to be able to use. When you're talking to families, I really strongly encourage you to think about how you're presenting information on research. What's digestible? Is it about inclusion-exclusion criteria if you're talking to a group of young people who wouldn't meet the inclusion criteria? Probably not. But can you spend time educating them on the science behind the trial? Because then when they would fit in that inclusion criteria, they would have that information and understand it in a very easy way. So I really encourage you all to take a look at our Survey 1 studies. Our Survey 2 study, we just opened up this past spring. And so this data is really, really preliminary. This is the first time we've looked at it, and we're in the process of analyzing. But we want to explore the understanding of the many ways that people, the many ways to participate in research and dive a little bit into the feelings and educational deficiencies in research overall. So it goes a little bit deeper into their emotions. We did ask some questions about all types of barriers, including logistics, and this information, again, is stuff that we knew, but we wanted to, again, gauge. So some of this isn't going to be new information, and that's okay, because it's just proving what we already know. So of this, right now, we have just a shy of, or a little over 100 people who've participated. We, again, have 11 languages translated. We want more because we want more diversity, but we're just collecting this information, and we'll have more coming up. So here we have information on which, for each research term, please rate your level of knowledge. This is really important as we start to have conversations around endpoints, about safety monitoring. You can see over on the right that those are very high in the pink mark. That means that there's a lot of room for education. And again, this is a smaller amount of people that we want to have complete this overall, but this is a good indicator, so we'll continue to watch it. And then again, barriers. So you have work, travel, but then you also have financial burden, eligibility criteria, access to the sites. These are all really important to continue to look at because it's a big problem we all know about. We also wanted to challenge them a little bit and say, well, how did you overcome those barriers? What were those things that you did to then participate in research? And so we have some quantitative and qualitative data around that as well. But we have some questions that we need to further analyze once we get more respondents. So those things include, what are some things that would make you more likely to participate in research? That's a typo. How could HD organizations or research sites improve your experience or likelihood in participating? Have you gained what you expected by participating in research? What did you expect? Has the research that you've heard about or participate in helped you in any way? There's so many typos on here. I apologize. I do need a new keyboard. Our next one that we're launching later on this fall is going to be mapping milestones. And that's where that timeline of the young person's journey comes into play. Again, we know that HD milestones impact life milestones, and life milestones impact HD milestones. So what we want to be able to do is ask about the key HD milestones, again, using our ambassador's guidance to be able to say, okay, so what are some key things that we should measure? One, when you first found out about Huntington's disease. Another one, when you started to have conversations about genetic testing. Another one, when loss of a parent, and so forth. And with each of these, you're going to have the ability to select your age and then have different menus down to be able to look at what services did you have, what was going on in your life at the time, what do you wish you would have had. So what we can do is we can look at, and here's a sneak peek of it, we can look at patterns. So we can say that social worker A or research organization B, if you have someone who's coming in and they're showcasing that they found out about Huntington's disease between 15 and 20, at this time they were facing this, then they went through this with their genetic testing, that they're more likely to participate in research at X, Y, and Z, is a possible way that we can look at that. We don't know yet because we haven't launched this. At the very basis, it's a good tool to be able to see what's happening behind the scenes to be able to create better support services as well. So we're really excited about what this could show. And as we get more questions, we can do more surveys to answer those questions. So what the heck are we going to do with this? Well, we have poster presentations, which is really important. We're going to be analyzing through peer-reviewed publications, do presentations, have information on social media, and we want to share this with everybody because this is not HDYO's information, this is the community's feelings and information, so we can all do better. We also have our juvenile HD registry. This is called Join HD. If you've sat in on Lauren's presentation, she talks about that, but this is looking at the global experiences of those who are impacted by juvenile HD. As again, we're looking at studies, we need to know where people are located, what their experiences are, and we're in the process of going on to stage 2, which is onboarding a new platform, some new questions, symptom tracking, things like that. So stay tuned to some exciting information coming up. And we could not do this without the tremendous support, and this isn't everybody, but we have so many supporters, whether it's financial, emotional, through partnerships, or what have you, who invest in young people. So I'd be remiss if we didn't say thank you to all of you. And we want to continue to grow this because, again, this community is so important, and we need to keep supporting and work as a team. We can't do this on our own. You can't do this on your own. We have to work together. If you're interested in getting involved or want to talk or have questions, please reach out to us. We have information at the booth. I'll be around, but I'm always happy to have meetings afterwards as well. I did it in 23 minutes. All right. Now, the real stars of the show. We have a fantastic panel of young people to share their experiences. I would like to invite Carly, Ann Elizabeth, and Nicola up here to the stage. So give them a round of applause. All right. So I'm going to start off by asking them, we'll go down the line starting with Nicola. Could you please share your name, where you're from, something fun about you, and what is your relationship to HD?
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Nicola and I'm from Czech Republic. And my HD story is that my dad suffers it and he is at the late stage, so he's the retired house and just lying, like not talking anymore, and I'm personally at risk.
Okay, hopefully this works, yeah. Hi everyone, my name is Carly, I'm from Wales in the UK. I'm a HDYO ambassador, HD advocate and a HD family member. I'm currently caring for my dad who has HD, and currently I'm just doing my master's in psychotherapy, which I hope to use the skills and knowledge as well as my resilience and lived experience of HD to support others going through the same experience.
Hi, my name is Ann Elizabeth. I am 27 years old and I am currently shifting between Sweden and Colombia. I was born into a HD family with my uncle being sick in the middle stages, and when I was 8 years old. My dad had the disease as well. I was his caregiver until I was 23 when he passed away. And now I am the only one alive on his side, and as well at risk. And something fun is that I'm studying fine arts in Colombia, actually, my second degree. So I am in my last year right now, and something I hope to do in the future is bring art and HD together to make something more fun about it.
Thank you all so much. And I'm going to also caveat, too, that Juan Carlos from Costa Rica was going to join us. He's the one who got the fellowship, so he's at lunch. But Anne Elizabeth did chat with him a little bit to kind of represent a little bit about himself. But he will also be a part of the roundtable discussion on Sunday. So I want to pick on first our at-risk individuals. So Nicola and Anne Elizabeth, have you ever thought about going through genetic testing? And what are some of the reasons why you haven't gone through with it?
Well, I was actually that teenager that wanted to get tested as quick as possible because I have anxiety, which was really bad. So at 18, they told me that I couldn't do the testing because they thought I was in a bad spot, being a caregiver and my dad being in the hospital and all that, so it was not a good moment or anything to do at the moment. But what they said was that they put a 4-year period. So in the meantime, I had therapy, talked with a psychologist about the process and my feelings and if I was ready or not. And that made me more safe to know if I really wanted to continue this path. So at 23 actually, when my dad passed away, I was stuck in Colombia and, the pandemic, so couldn't get tested. But we have it for maybe 2026. And that's something that we're still trying to work on, but I've already got from my psychologist that she feels I'm ready. But one new thing that has happened that didn't happen during the time my dad and all of his family members, when they got tested, which was you got your test and that was it, and they sent you. Now it's not only do you have a process during, you also have the opportunity to offer psychological help with the person you're taking with you to the day that you get the test results. So I told them that I'm bringing my mom and that they would offer actually help for her as well so she could be prepared, because that's the thing that has been ignored my entire life, my mom. So I think it's really important that we put the light on this, that other people also can get therapy during genetic testing.
So it sounds like there's support for you, and then having support for your loved ones around you because of their coping and need to understand and process. And yeah. Nicola.
So for me, who my teenage, I was thinking that, when I will be 18, I'm going to test it. I wanted to know. But when I turned 18, I realized that I don't have to do it because I can. And I realized that if I notice that I'm positive or negative, I never take it back. You know it, and you just can't change it. So now I'm just I really don't know if I really wanted to know, and it's now it's not benefit in it to know. Okay, you will have it, but for me, it's my opinion, but I don't see benefit in it, because now it's nothing that I can do to be lately, the disease start lately or stop it. It's not now, and research and everything like that. But for me, it's I'm not at the age that I want a family, but we do have EVF, so that's the option to don't know it. And it's not like, I don't see like good things about to know, because I don't know if like bus will like, I don't have like crash at an accident tomorrow, or what will like days bring. So yeah, that's my opinion. And also like you're not winning if you are negative or positive. Like I have like so many friends, and they're from HD families, and they're positive, negative, or at risk, and it's not like winning to don't have it. Because yeah, if you have it, it's tough and hard, and you know what will happen. But also if you don't have it, you're gene negative, you have also family and siblings, and it's like the question is why I'm the survivor. It's not like winning to don't be a positive.
We hear that a lot. We hear about people who, even people who are connected to the scientific community who are at risk, who say, I'm just not ready for my life to change. I'm happy right now. And so whether you find out you're gene positive, gene negative, that's a huge identity changer. And so are you prepared for that? And I think it's really, when you think of any kind of disease and you think, let's bring up cancer, that's something that we're all familiar with. And you think someone tests negative, right? It's not cancerous. You say, congratulations, that's amazing. There's something to celebrate when you test gene negative, but there are so many other things under the surface that they're feeling and they start to process. So it's important that they still get the same amount of support as anybody else, because that process tends to evolve over a long length of time, and that grieving looks different. And there's a lot of grieving that happens for people who have tested positive. So it's really important to understand the many complexities of what genetic testing looks like. I'm curious, do you all feel, so Anne, you shared a little bit, you have your toe in a couple of different countries here. What does access to genetic testing look like when you're thinking of like Sweden and then you're looking at Colombia? Do you feel like, how is that experience? Is it different? Because I think that global aspect and support aspect is hugely diverse based off of where you live, even in the same country when you may have even support deserts. So can you share?
Yeah, it's really diverse. I mean, I remember when just knowing about the situation in Sweden, I'm lucky enough because I am from Gothenburg, so we have an HD center and everything to get through the entire process. But if you're from a city that is not the capital or a big city inside of Sweden, then there is a risk that you are doing a genetic testing that's really quick and without any vision of how it's supposed to be or what information they're supposed to give you and so on. So it really is diverse, both in Sweden as a whole, but as well compared to South America, Central America, to Europe. In Colombia, we have a lot of difficulties because not everyone can get tested. You really have to prove that your family member has HD, and sometimes if you don't have HD, they assume that, okay, but it's Parkinson first, and they do a lot of testing before you end up with HD and getting tested for that. And not everyone has access to that. Especially because the care in Colombia is very complicated right now, and if you live in a rural area, it's even harder. It's almost impossible. A lot of people don't even know that you can get tested for Huntington's disease. And what Juan Carlos, who's supposed to be here today, he told me that in Costa Rica, if you want to get tested for HD, you have to pay $100 just to get tested, but the issue there is that you don't get any information during this period of time. And he, who is one of the founders of the associations, Huntington Association in Costa Rica, told me that usually people go to him because they don't have the information about if they should do it or not. So they go there for support, and that's it. But more than that, it's really complicated.
Thank you both for sharing about that. Carly, I wanted to share a little bit, or wanted you to share a little bit about why did you decide to go through the testing process, and what support did you have, and did you feel prepared?
I was a little bit different from these two in terms of, although I can't remember a life without like Huntington's disease in it, I never really thought about getting tested, like growing up. But then it just came to a point in my life where actually I did see benefit in getting tested. And I just felt like the knowledge was there anyway. So I just wanted to know in that sense. But I think I decided probably at the wrong time during the pandemic to get tested, because I think I had less support than I maybe could have had, which really highlighted to me the kind of shortfall in support. But I made that decision for myself, and I still continue to go through it, and I had as good support as I could have, and I was lucky in the sense that my family are just such a strong, supportive family that they are all I needed at that point anyway. But yeah, I think it was just something I needed to know, whether I saw the benefit of getting involved in research or just planning for the future and what I wanted to do because of knowing that result, you know?
Thinking about after getting your test results initially to today, how have you coped with those results?
Truthfully, quite like self-coping. Like I said, I have a strong supportive family and relationships around me, so that has really kept me going. My studies have really kept me going in the sense that because I felt that lack of kind of psychological support throughout it all, that it's helped push me and drive me to support others with my hopeful career progression. And listening to Anne speak, actually, I realises how lucky I am in the sense of my HD clinic and the support we have there. So actually, although we're having the difficulty of the knowledge of everything, the support is there in that sense, because listening to some other countries, they definitely don't have it, unfortunately.
What would you tell someone who's considering going through genetic testing?
Wait for there not to be a pandemic. No, basically it's a very personal decision. Everyone's doing it for different reasons, and I just think it's their own sole decision to make. But I would personally get as much support as possible prior to help you for when you actually get the result, because although I did have the knowledge that I would have that result and what it would be, it still didn't prepare me for the kind of emotions and everything going after that. So I think getting that support there ready for afterwards, because there might not be any put forward for you, and you really need that. So yeah, getting that ready.
Have any of you felt pressured to go through testing? Yeah, Annalise is like, yes. What does that pressure look like? Where does it come from, and how do you manage that?
I mean, everyone. Like, if it's not a friend, it's a stranger. If it's not a stranger, it's your own family that asks you, because of the lack of knowledge of, do you think taking a test result is good for you? And like you hear from my friends over here, that it's, for everyone, it's not just a win-win situation. It's really hard, and just deciding if you want to get tested or not is something that haunts us behind our brains all day, all night, every day. So having that pressure from other people is even worse, because then it's like, oh, but is it because I'm showing symptoms, or why are they pressuring me, or stuff like that. So I had a lot of family members and even strangers, and especially, I think in Colombia, there's a culture where people are like, once they want to get to know like every detail and everything, and then they think they know the best. So they keep telling me like, you have to do the test now, you have to do the test now. And I'm like, no, I can't. I'm still studying. I have to finish my studies first before doing that. Like, it's a long process that you have to go through. And I'm lucky that I don't have any siblings, I don't have any cousins on my dad's side. I am the only one left, so I don't have what we call like the guilt of you've test positive or negative. So for me, it's not like as bad, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, the process, they don't have a clue about it.
For me, I was never pressured to get tested. It was a sole decision. But it might be the opposite in the sense that I probably was asked maybe not to get tested because they obviously just didn't want me to know at such a young age. But there was never a pressure to not to that extent. It was always my own decision, so I haven't really experienced that.
Yeah. So in Czech, it's like, I think that in Czech we have like still stigma about talking about like hard things and diseases and like hard things. And so when I start talking with somebody about HD, like in Czech Republic is so small, we had like 10 million people in here, so maybe 100 people has Huntington. So it's not that no as I wish. So many people don't know about it and never will know. So I just can't like talk. And if I start a conversation, it's like, okay, what it means. Okay, so you can get tested, you have 50%, but nobody like go in it and want to talk about with me. Neither family. It's like, okay, I start the conversation and they close to me. Like, okay, so now I have HDYO, of course. But like, yeah, they helps a lot. But in Czech, like they're trying to change your mind that where I was teenage and I want to test it, my family was like, no, you don't want to know. They're trying to change my mind. So in Czech, like it's not like pressure to go in it, but go back from it.
Yeah. Aren't opinions fun? Yeah, so much fun. Thank you all very much for sharing about your genetic testing. I have one more question about genetic testing, but I'm going to save it for the research section. So, do any of you participate in research? If so, how?
I've only done the Enroll-HD. I haven't actually been involved in any other research as of yet, so I do that every year, which I think is important for everyone.
Yeah, for me, it's the same. I just started Enroll in Colombia, so just waiting for them to call me if I can do anything, really.
Yeah, same for me. I'm just starting with Enroll in Czech.
You're forgetting something kind of important. Did you fill out our survey?
Yep.
That's research.
Yes.
That's research. That's one thing, is that we continually need to educate people on the importance of even the simplest 7-minute survey too. And it's not just to promote our survey, but just in general. There's lots of them out there. There's registries that can be done very quickly, very manageably on top of the different observational studies and clinical trials. And I think that's another really important educational tool. Do you feel like people understand the different kinds of research? Here you really focus on clinical trials, but think about your friends outside. Do they kind of understand what research is and the different kinds?
I think it's very different for everyone in terms of their knowledge. I think conferences like this are so important to really try and engage more and understand, because it can be quite tricky and quite overwhelming for a lot of young people to try and figure out what this research trial must mean or how they can get involved, what that term means. The terminology can be quite difficult for some young people, so I think it can be very different. It's disparate for everyone.
Yeah. Why do you think young people, have fears associated with research? What fears are out there? What do you hear? Everybody's comfortable? No one's scared?
I think it's possibly, like I was just saying, sometimes the knowledge might not be there, so then that's where the fear comes from, because they haven't got the knowledge. And, you know, even someone who may be the most qualified young person in terms of maybe, like in terms of degrees, for example, they still might not know a lot about some research. So I think the fear obviously must come as a result of that, and consequently then they may not want to get involved because they're too scared of what may happen.
I can share with you an experience that we learned from Congress is that we had the best of intentions the first day to do these getting to know you sessions. And one of those getting to know you sessions was self-selection, so we weren't checking with people as they entered the doors. But we had people go into rooms based off of how they identified dependent on genetic status or known genetic status or an unknown genetic status. But we also said that if you wanted to go and meet other people in those rooms with different genetic statuses, you can as well. That was really triggering, and that wasn't the intention. Just to step in a room filled with lots of other people and labeling yourself was a huge piece of that. So that's what we hear a lot with the community too, is if people are at risk, am I going to be told about my genetic status if I do enroll? Am I going to be told that my symptoms are progressing at certain stages? Am I going to have to label myself as sick for insurance? There's lots of different stigmas around that, with a lot of you already know. But really, that having to step forward and label yourself is a big one that we hear from the community. And again, it really just depends on where they are with their awareness and understanding and coping of HD. Would any of you participate in a clinical trial today?
Yes, always, 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 always. If anyone wants me, I am here.
Yeah, I think I'd always want to get involved. It's just a tricky stage because I have the knowledge of being HD positive and I'm asymptomatic. I think it's a tricky stage, so I'm not really sure if I'm eligible for anything or what is available.
Nicola, I'm curious because I know Anne-Elizabeth has a date in mind for testing. For testing. I'm not pressuring you.
No.
But would research play into a consideration to go through genetic testing?
Oh.
Would a clinical trial or a research opportunity make you go through genetic testing?
It's a hard question. Like now I have like the answer in my head, but maybe in a minute it will be like different. But I don't think so. Like yeah, like the only reason why I want to know if I'm positive or negative, it's like yeah, okay, so I can help and maybe you will find something in me and it will help to the community, who knows? But it's like, okay, but I have also my own life. And it's like, I don't know, like, yeah, as I said, one time it's in my opinion like this, and one time it's like different. So like only way why I wanted to know it's that I can help to the people I love, but also like just trying to be myself and do things I love, and I know that it can change it completely. So it's like 50-50.
Yeah, it's a tough decision.
Yeah.
It's tough, and I think part of that is what's the clinical trial?
Yeah.
What is the what's the stage that it's in? What are you looking at? What are what are those different components of it? Those are really tough conversations because you can't see the future, and so going through genetic testing just for a trial when you're not emotionally ready, probably not a good idea. But if you are emotionally ready and you're just kind of waiting for that opportunity, testing may be a good fit. So I think these are, again, really in-depth conversations that kind of pair in with that support and education piece of it altogether. Do you think that young people are heard when it comes to research? Are their opinions and perspectives being listened to?
I've had the opportunity to be part of some HD CAB advisory boards, so it's been really impactful and empowering to actually speak to these individuals and these companies, and I truly felt that they did listen and we were heard, so I got that perspective, but it's difficult with people who maybe aren't as involved as that. How do they get their voice heard,
Yeah, I think it's also difficult when you're at risk because that puts you in a difficult spot of, if they want you in a clinical trial or not, same with family members in general. That's why HD CAB, I think, is so important because you get the view of everyone and it doesn't really matter like where you're from or what's your diagnosis or anything related to that. It's more of like your connection with HD and then that they will hear you. But yeah, there's depending on what. I think HD Camp is like the best opportunity right now for us to have someone to really listen to us.
Yeah.
Because we have noticed that after those meetings, those people have actually learned new things and considered us and our families more.
Yeah. Like, as I said, in Czech, we don't have like big groups, so we are not like hearing as I wish I am. Like, I don't know like any family member in my age from Czech. Like, the fun fact is that I met one girl here from Czech. She is a family member. It was like, oh my God, what are you doing here? I think I'm alone. But it's like we're not a big group. So when I was younger, I feel that nobody listened and checked to me. And then I went to the party bits and met and started to work with like HDYO. And there I feel like safe and be hearing. And it's like such a good thing. When last year in Scotland, it was like, it changed my whole life, and I'm so grateful for it because I finally accepted and find like people that I love.
I know, I'm getting a little teary. You have a lot of people in this room. What do you want them to know about young people?
Well, that we're amazing. If someone wants us to get involved, us ambassadors, but also everyone else, I bet they can help you in any kind of way. And never doubt to question us. Like, give us all the questions you have. Like, we can get a group together, answer them if there's something you need to consider in a trial or anything. I know we have a big group who would be more than happy to get involved.
I think it's that there's a huge community of young people all over the world that need you, and they'll have that courage and empowerment to use their voices and do things like this with that support.
Yeah, I think so. Like, it's like we need you and you need us, if I said like that. So yeah, we are here, we are open for you, and it's really awesome to see like the scientists and doctors here, because it's really important for us to see the people who are working for us. And I think, and my option is like really good to see us, like the people, positive, negative, at risk from families. Yeah.
I think what I would say on top of that is what we try to encourage young people to do is when they're at meetings like this is to go and talk to you all, because I think that there's this mystique around the scientific support community of kind of being untouchable or intimidating, but you're not, you're fun. I partied with some of you before, but we also want you to do the same. When you go to meetings, please step forward and share who you are, what you do. Talk with young people because they want to talk with you, but they may have a little bit of intimidation. It is not easy to stand up here and share such personal experiences, but three wonderful people did it so well today. Please give them a round of applause. We're done. But they're still going to be around afterwards for questions. So again, please feel free to ask them questions and experiences. They'll be around. And if you need anything from us, please stop by our booth. But thank you all so much for your attention, for your passion. And the next session starts in 7 minutes exactly. So you get a little bit of a bio break. Thank you all.